We're here today with Brenton Woods from Elation Homes at their gorgeous Neville Street property called Bordeaux, where Dynamic Steel Frame has provided the light gauge and structural steel to this epic build. So Brenton, can you tell me some of the successes you've had in converting from traditional framing over to light gauge steel?
Big ones would be the design process, getting 3D models back as part of the design process so we can actually review and see every single piece of material going into the build. Supply of LGS and structural steel. It's been a huge advantage. We essentially have one company to come to get the entire supply. Speed of manufacture, speed of design process, and then speed of erecting the frames on site, and then everything being so straight and clean.
That's one of the beautiful parts about light gauge steel. It is really laser straight, and you get that forever. There's no warping or twisting or bowing because steel is inorganic. It doesn't move over time, and that's what we hear a lot about the quality of a steel house frame.
Yeah, absolutely, and we notice that a lot. When we put traditional timber framing in, it might have been straight at the start, but by the time we got through the build process, we were having to fix things on the frames because they warp or twist. We've had none of that at all with light gauge steel.
Brilliant. In the design and engineering process, you were telling me earlier that you're now using that experience to make your next build even more efficient. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, so when we converted from traditional framing across to light gauge steel, one of the big changes was the fact that we had to do a lot more design process up front, which is very different to a traditional frame where you would send your plans off and they would just send you the materials on site and off you would go. The benefit of that for us has been understanding how the frames all come together. We now leverage that information as we're going through designing our floor plans and our facades. We now design with light gauge steel in mind. The benefits we get from that are decrease in materials required, decrease in costs because we can design smarter. And then we design different things like floor to ceiling windows, knowing that light gauge steel is far more beneficial in designing certain elements like that.
That makes the whole process, the digital twin process that we talk about, really comes to life when you see it in a house.
Absolutely, and obviously from that perspective as well, we get a lot more insight. Once we're looking at a 3D model of the house and where everything is, we can make sure that we've allowed for plumbing voids and where the duct runs are going to happen. We can make sure that we can actually physically see that on the 3D model where they're exactly going to run.
That must make your on-site work hassle-free.
Absolutely, and our trades are happier because everything's already provisioned. The plans we get back from Dynamic already have all of our duct runs marked. They have all of our plumbing voids marked. So the plumbers can literally get a copy of the plans and just follow rather than trying to create it on site.
So there's a lot of trepidation from builders when thinking about changing the way they've been building for 20 or 30 years. And one of the biggest ones from that is converting from wood over to steel. So have there been any challenges you've faced in making that change?
For sure. To be honest, it's made us better builders in the transfer across to steel because we had to be more organised at the start of the job. It's a little bit different to timber where you can get the timber on site and if anything's wrong, you can butcher to make it correct. But in the process, a lot of the time, creating other issues around structure and
slowing everything down.
Whereas steel, we had to get everything right at the start. The benefit of obviously working with Dynamic and getting the 3D twin is that makes it a lot easier. We spend a little bit more time at the start getting everything right, but what that translates to is far less time trying to sort out issues once it's on site.
So no decisions on site?
No decisions on site.
That's perfect.
Some of the best things about working with Dynamic have been the team, always contactable, always able to reach out and get information when we needed it. Having an in-house design team and a single person that is designing our whole project, being able to work with them, have meetings at the office and actually go through the design process, any challenges they can see. They're picking up things right at the very start that we may not have thought about in our designs. And identifying those and bringing them to light, and we work through them, come up with solutions that then get incorporated into the framing.
It's certainly a lot easier to make those amendments with a keyboard and a mouse rather than angle grinders and drills and saws and climbing up ladders to fix things later.
Absolutely.
So that's a huge change from traditional.
And I guess the benefit that leads out of that also is we're not perfect. We do occasionally make a mistake, but working with Dynamic's been amazing. It's only a phone call to say, hey, we've mucked this up. Can you re-roll something for us? And the turnaround time is always amazing.
So Brenton, what advice would you have for another builder who is looking to upgrade their skill set to light gauge steel framing?
One of the key things I would say is right from the start, get some consulting around using light gauge. So especially from an engineering perspective, rather than engineering for traditional timber framing, start looking at engineering for light gauge steel. So we've engaged a specific light gauge steel structural engineer who we work with closely. We'll send across sketches and plans, get their feedback on how that's going to work with light gauge. The benefit of that is really all about efficiency and effectiveness once we get materials on site.
So you get to optimise the frame rather than going a traditional old school way of just throwing in steel and LVLs and all the rest of it. Yep. You get to exploit the advantages of light gauge steel being it's lighter, it's straighter, it spans better and all those kind of things at the start, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and we design around that. So we'll use our spans and everything to suit light gauge steel.
And that's why you get these beautiful open spaces with less posts and beams hiding in the way. Now that you've heard some of the advantages of using light gauge steel and you want to make your builds lighter, straighter, better, come and see the team at Dynamic Steel Frame.